like it's Mass. Now, to many of us, that's the best thing in the entire world. But to others, it's not. And so I always think back when I had my son and I was trying to teach him to walk. Like, the way to teach him to walk, in some ways the Mass is like walking. And the way to teach my son to walk was never to just say, walk. Like, throw him out there. No, we devised little sort of maneuvers. So I would I put him like a little bit away and then he would come to me. And a little bit away and he would come to me. So, with your friends, you want them to come to Mass. And they say they don't have time. Okay, so you don't have time for Mass. Would you want to pray this prayer with me just for 10 minutes beforehand? I'll pray this prayer with you for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go to Mass. But I want us to pray together. Uh-oh. Well, I can give 10 minutes. I can't walk across the room. I don't have an hour and then walking over there and afterwards, and then there's the fire outside. I don't like that fire. I have 10 minutes. Do you want to pray this prayer with me? Yeah, I can do that. Hey, would you pray for my friend? Would you pray for our friend? There's small ways, and you start to testify to them of a love that they didn't know that they were missing, and then get them to Mass. For some, that's what you have to do. This is Augustine's point in his work, De Catechensibus Rudibus, or On Teaching Beginners, that every person we work with requires something unique, and so sometimes the thing that we think that they want, the fullness that they want, we can't give it to them, so we just give them the little bit that they can take now. So I work with students who are Catholic, and they say, like, I don't go to Mass anymore, and, you know, I teach theology, and it's not my job in the classroom to sort of, like, convert them, but then they come to me, especially the sort of angsty ones, because there's a lot of angst in undergraduate life, and they'll come to me and they'll say something like, I don't know, like, I'm not practicing, like, why should I go to Mass? And it's like, well, I don't know, it's not my job to convince you right now. What's going on with you? Are you happy? No, not really. Yeah, I figured, because you just came to your theology professor to ask if you should go to Mass. I mean, there's something wrong. Like, what's going on? And so I begin there, and then we work. And the goal is to get them to the Eucharist. But not just the Eucharist, but to sort of like the beatific vision. But for now, the Eucharist. The goal is to get them as well. So that's how I do it. Because you can't argue with someone about love. You have to teach them to fall in love. And so that's how I do it. Also by your subtle witness, you're playing the long game. This is not the short game. He goes to Mass every Sunday, even when we have exams. Like every Sunday. It's so annoying to me, and we've been out of college for 4 years, and I still remember that he went to Mass every Sunday. Maybe I should call him after my divorce. Maybe I should call him, like when this breakup happened. You're playing the long game. And that's what actually the sort of like preaching of the gospel is. It's the long game. We're not playing the short game. It's the very, very long game. Sometimes it's a short game, but for a lot of people working with, it's not gonna, the immediate fruits are not visible to us. Yeah, Father.
Last question from me.
Great. No, I didn't know that. That sounded cheekier than it intended to be. It was not that cheeky.
You got your doctorate in theology, and I know this is kind of a personal question, if you could answer it, but how do you pray the Mass? With the amount of knowledge you have in your head, can I ask, like, what, I know it's probably different oftentimes, but what goes on in you? How do you turn that into a prayer for yourself as you move through the different moments of the Eucharist?
Yeah, for a while, it's a great question. For a while, like, I would only go to Mass, and write my dissertation. Like, I remember like sitting in homily after homily, good ones, and like thinking like, oh, that's chapter 3. This was the same stage where I was dreaming of writing every day. That was my only dream, was writing. I would write whole chapters in my sleep. It was I think it was hell. So, I don't know, though, like, in some ways, the problem was I had to actually, not to sort of forget my intellect, or sort of not bring my intellect to the table. I mean, the intellect is part of me, it's who I am, it's, you know, I notice, I've studied this, I know in every lectionary reading, I know the obscure connection often made between the Old Testament and New Testament because I've read exclusively in the Fathers. So I know exactly what's happening. But that's not what for a long time I thought that that's like what the point of the Mass was, right? Like, knowing things. Like, oh yeah, well that's that. No, Father didn't pick up on it, not surprised. But, I don't know, in some ways, it all kind of was transformed for me when my wife and I were unable to have children. And I was really, really angry at God at this, and intellectually it made no sense. And so I would like go to Mass and be very angry at God and sort of gaze at the crucifix in like the only way that I could sort of like gaze at the woundedness of God and like say, you have wounds, take mine. And it opened up a space for me that the Mass, again, after years of kind of intellectual pursuits, became about this kind of act of love and this sacrifice of love. And through that, my wife and I ended up adopting, and we adopted a little child who is Tommy, who is just trying to kill us now. And now when I go to Mass, I'm offering, like in some ways, being a father has made me a better prayer. Because I'm more worried, and because like in a lot of ways I know a love that I didn't know you could know. And so I learned to pray the Mass not through sort of an effort of will or a training, but through just going again and again, and then finding myself in a new season of my life, and then the prayer changed. Like a symphony where, like Mozart's Jupiter Symphony in the 4th movement, in which the same 4 themes are being played the entire time, the same 5 themes are being played the entire time, but they're alternating and changing so that every time it sounds new. That's in some ways what happened. So every time I went to the Mass, I changed, and I learned to pray it by changing and needing it more and more and more, because I needed that love. And I know that there's going to be another stage where I'm going to need to pray it differently. Because I'm not going to live forever, and my wife could get sick, or I could get sick, or our families, our parents are going to die, and that's going to change things too. So that's what I would say, like how I learned to stop being an intellectual. At least there, not elsewhere.
Thank you so much, Tim, for coming. Learning more about the liturgy, come talk to me and I'll give you the title of Tim's book and you can buy it on Amazon. Do some free.
Okay.